All right, boom. Joining me now, comment on this, NEC Director Kevin Hassett. All right, Kevin, you've heard me. You've heard me carve up these numbers before. I'm just saying this. I'm going to get your take on these numbers. Real final sales, 3%. Inflation, 0. Business spending up 22.5%. I know there is front running on the trade imports. I get that. But to say this is a recessionary number, I think it's completely wrong, Kevin. What are you thinking?
Yeah, it's totally not. But I would add like one other thing without going deep into the numbers, because you gave us a lot of numbers right
Give
now,
me numbers.
I love
the numbers.
But what I want to say is that if you go back and look at the story of the quarter, then what happened is that before President Trump was inaugurated in January, at the end of the Biden administration, we had one of the worst months on record. Now, a lot of it was because of the depressing effect of Biden's agenda. But there were also special factors like bad weather and the terrible wildfires and so on. And so we had one of the worst Januaries that I can remember. But then we ended up, as you said, with all of this positive momentum in the quarter. And if you look at it as a story of 3 months, then what you see is that beginning in February, then everything started to take off. And I think that President Trump doesn't get enough credit for how much into the weeds he is on policy and how much he really cares about it. And look back at when he was speaking to the joint session of Congress, Larry. He said something that a lot of people didn't notice that were watching the speech, but a lot of businesses did. He said, these tax cuts will be retroactive.
Right.
Do you remember that?
Right.
He said these will be retroactive. Yes. And then all of a sudden in February and in March, we had an unprecedented capital spending boom.
Yes.
Equipment investment went up 20%. Overall business fixed investment went up 10%. I mean, it was an astonishing moment, I believe, in the history of presidential economic rhetoric, because he went into the weeds in a way nobody I've ever seen has ever said something about retroactivity in a State of the Union address. But he did it because he understood that we've got to make people know, don't wait until we pass these things. We're going to pass them. And when we pass them, things are going to take off. And then all of a sudden, after the worst January you've ever seen, we saw February and a March that's for the record books.
Yeah, the point is people shouldn't be afraid to front run, because they're going to be covered. And the bill's going to go through.
I want to talk about what you said. I'd like to talk about what you said also about the import number.
Yeah, so there's a $200 billion gap between these imports and the inventories. Now, that's a very weird thing.
We noticed it right.
That's very weird.
We noticed it right away. We noticed it right away.
So the Commerce Department, whatever it is, what is it? The BEA that runs these numbers. Is that right? BEA is over in Commerce Department. So the pencil pushers, they're subtracting that out. Why are they subtracting? First of all, where did it go? Where
did the money go?
If they're going to subtract it, why can't I add it back in? And if I add it back in, you've got a 3.2% quarter.
Right. So the bottom line is, if I were to buy, say, a Mercedes, that it goes into consumption, but it comes out of imports, and so it has no effect on GDP.
Yes.
So if the BEA tells us something had a negative 5% effect on GDP, then you got to say, well, why didn't it go into consumption or inventories? Where did the money go? And when we talked, or when the CEA people talked to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, they admitted that there appears to be something really wrong in the data. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw big actual changes and revisions in the future, but I don't think that there's certainly not any misconduct on their part. And if you're trying to think about how could it possibly happen that you would get 5% of GDP moved into the country, but then you can't find a lot of the money, then the answer is that there could be errors in the way that we collect the inventory data and the consumption data. So, for example, if people bought a lot of pharmaceuticals, let's say hospitals bought a lot of pharmaceuticals, maybe it doesn't show up in inventories because it's sitting in a hospital and the inventory data don't survey hospitals. Things like that are being investigated, I think, by the data folks right now, because when they communicated with our Council of Economic Advisors, they themselves said that the data seem like they're not exactly making sense to them right now.
Well, I'd like to see.
And they even had a footnote. They even had a footnote, a little footnote in the back about this matter. Well, and so I respect their professionalism on this matter. And I think that in the end, the data are confusing for folks, because how do you get 5% of GDP moving into the country and then not see it in consumption or in inventories?
I mean,
like either we buy it and it's in my house, or it's in the store on the shelves, but it's not in either. It's a puzzle.
That's right. It doesn't just evaporate. This stuff doesn't just evaporate. Pencil pushers evaporate. But this stuff does not evaporate. Now, the Commerce Secretary should look into this too, Howard Lutnick. The point is, Kevin, think of it this way, just in a narrow sense. You had business equipment go up. That's business equipment machinery.
Right.
You had that go up by 22.5%. That is
which
a
is more than it did
number.
in the last year and a half.
Right.
More than it did the whole last year and a half in one quarter, the first quarter. It's crazy
So
how wonderful it is. Yeah.
So a number like that cannot be associated with a recession or a near recession. Just common sense. That's all. Common sense. Because business.
There's never been a recession with a number like that. In fact, I looked because you always ask me to look. In the 1970s, in a recession, there once was a 4% quarter for investment, but never anything like
How
this.
about 22?
And that was the only positive one we could find.
So I got headlines. I got headlines going from, the first quarter was down slightly. The second quarter is going to be worse. We're going to fall in a recession. It can't be. It cannot be.
No.
And I saw at the cabinet, President Trump was talking about core GDP rising by 3%. So you've done a good job, Kevin Hassett, or you and I have, or you and I and Tyler Goodspeed and all the others, because private domestic final sales, that's the C plus I, consumption plus investment, is in fact up by 3% at an annual rate. That is core GDP.
Right.
Now, you can't have a recession if private sales, which is C plus I, if that's up by 3%. I'm sorry. So all the reporting on this stuff is just wrong. I'm just saying, it's all a bunch of fake news. That's all.
My favorite thing about this, Larry, is that when I had a long conversation about the GDP release with the president, that you had coached him so well over the years about all the GDP arithmetic that he immediately saw through the numbers. And literally, we had a very, very positive conversation about this.
Don't you remember one of the times it was about 100 degrees outside? You got to remember this.
It's pretty hot today.
We're standing up. We're about to go out of the Rose Garden, right, and talk about the economy. And you and I we got the numbers in front of him. We're showing him the numbers, this one, this one, this one. And then he all sends us out there. And if we didn't die of heat, we certainly had a good economic presentation.
You looked like you were going down that day. I remember that.
Well, that was a tough one. Look, I'm just saying that he does know the numbers. As a former businessman and builder, he surely knows the numbers. And your point about retroactive is so key, Kevin, is so important. The factory investment is retroactive. The business equipment machinery investment is retroactive. And isn't that stuff is the heart of real wages. It's the heart of productivity. You know, that's the stuff that you tracked when you argued as an academic your papers on corporate tax cuts. This is the heart of it. So you can't tell me with 22%, just that number alone, that we're heading for a recession.
And think about it again in the president's address, the moment before he said that in the Capitol building, that people had to depreciate their equipment, they got 40% expensing, had to depreciate the rest over, say, 7 years. And then in that address, he said, nope, right now you get to expense. Starting tonight.
Fabulous.
And then, boom,
Fabulous.
equipment investment goes off.
Kevin, last one, let you go. I know you got some work to do. The G6, of which you are a member, it looks like July 4th is now the consensus. Speaker Johnson and Majority Leader Thune. Is that your best guess also? You're in the thick of that thing. What do you make of it?
Oh, you're talking about the bill?
The big, beautiful bill. Every night I say a prayer. I go on my knees, I say a prayer. Dear God, big, beautiful bill, please. What do you think? July, we have to, not Memorial Day? I like Memorial Day, but.
Yeah, we had the Big Six. I thought you said G6, and I'm thinking, wait, G7.
No.
Now I misheard you. But yeah, we had a Big Six meeting on Monday, and it was as positive as any tax meeting I've ever had from the White House with Congress. And I think that the House is moving forward. There's already bills maybe even coming out today, and things are on fast forward, and there's really not much disagreement about anything. They're going to make the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act permanent. They're going to deliver on the promises the president made during the campaign, and then they're adding some of their own stuff too, in order to make the soup just tasty.
Go ahead, let them have
for
it.
sure.
Let
I
them
think
have
by
it.
I think July is probably. We're hoping for sooner than that, but if July is what it is, then that's what we'll take.
Only a couple months. It's the end of April. July's coming up faster than you think. It's all great stuff. Kevin Hassett, the director of the White House National Economic Council. Nobody better. Thank you, Kevin.